At 5:17 local time, 4 fast surface contacts suddenly break formation and turn directly toward the U.S. Escort. For half a second, the bridge goes completely still. Then the Combat Information Center cuts through the silence. Bridge, CIC, 4 surface tracks changing course, speed increasing. Bearing 086, range 16 nautical miles. Outside, the sea is nearly black beneath the first gray light of dawn. Off the port quarter, the carrier group continues forward in disciplined silence, half hidden by haze and distance. But closer to the Escort, low on the horizon, 4 smaller silhouettes rise and fall through the chop, their wakes growing sharper behind them. These are not fishing boats, not merchant traffic, not random clutter on a radar display. The officer of the deck leans closer to the repeater. Confirm classification. A brief pause. Then CIC answers. Probable Iranian fast-armed craft. The atmosphere on the bridge changes instantly. There is no panic. No shouting, just movement. Controlled, professional, exact. One watchstander reaches for the sound-powered phone. Another adjusts the surface plot. A third brings long-range optics onto the contacts as the Escort's radar paints each track brighter with every sweep. The 4 boats are no longer moving parallel. They are converging. Captain to the bridge. He arrives in seconds, still buttoning his jacket, his eyes moving from the windows to the tactical display without wasting a word. He does not ask what happened. He reads the situation in one glance. 4 contacts, speed building, intercept geometry tightening. Current CPA under 4 nautical miles and falling, Captain. He nods once. Log everything. Hail them. The radio circuit opens. Unidentified Iranian naval vessels, this is United States warship conducting lawful transit. You are approaching at unsafe speed. Alter course immediately. The message goes out cleanly in English over bridge-to-bridge frequency. No answer. Outside, the wakes grow longer, white, hard, unmistakable. Range now 14 nautical miles. CIC reports. All 4 contacts continuing closure. The Escort holds course, holds speed, that matters. On a warship, every movement sends a message, especially when another force is trying to make you move first. The captain keeps his voice low. Weapons tight, no illumination unless ordered. Keep them on camera. Below the bridge, the ship is already changing posture. Not dramatically, not in a way an untrained eye would notice. But the systems are waking up. Consoles brighten inside CIC. Electronic warfare operators begin recording emissions. Surface tracking becomes continuous. Defensive solutions remain in standby, not yet committed, but no longer idle. That is how it begins at sea, quietly. At 5:19, the 4 boats split into pairs. 2 angle wider to starboard, 1 stays centered. The 4th accelerates harder than the rest, pushing ahead with the kind of confidence that suggests the crew already knows exactly what it intends to do. Bridge CIC, lead contact now 28 knots. The officer of the deck looks up. That's no observation pass. The captain says nothing for a moment. He watches the lead boat through binoculars. Low hull, narrow profile. Bow rising aggressively under throttle. Not a patrol drift, not a casual approach, a deliberate run. Hail them again, the radio operator transmits. Iranian naval vessels, you are closing a United States Navy escort at unsafe range. Alter course now. This is your second warning. Again, nothing. No voice, no acknowledgement, no course correction, only speed. The bridge windows begin to fill with dawn light, and with it, detail. What had been dark shapes become hard lines of steel. The lead boat is now clear enough for the optics team to call out external features. Superstructure, mast profile. Forward deck configuration. Another boat off its beam holds just far enough away to complicate the picture. They are not rushing in a straight line. They are building angles. CIC to bridge, possible bracket setup. Everyone on the bridge understands what that means. One boat draws attention forward, another pressures the flank. The others wait for the geometry to tighten. The captain lowers the binoculars. Bring the helo detachment to immediate standby. I want it ready, not airborne. Aye, sir. Somewhere aft, the flight deck crew is already moving. At 5:21, the electronic warfare operator speaks for the first time. Bridge EW, intermittent surface search emissions from the lead group. Low power, they're painting. The captain turns his head slightly. Fire control quality? Negative, not yet. Not yet. The phrase hangs in the bridge like cold metal. Range drops to 12 nautical miles, then 11.5. The lead Iranian boat surges again, its wake stretching into a long white blade. Another cuts inward from starboard, reducing lateral space. The centered boat holds its line like a knife aimed toward the Escort's bow. The 4th lingers just behind, exactly where a supporting craft would want to be if the situation turned worse. No one says that out loud. They do not need to. The captain braces one hand against the chart table and speaks in the same steady tone he has used since entering the bridge. Set condition 3 throughout. Keep the group informed. And if any one of those boats shifts into launch posture, I want the call the second it happens. Aye, Captain. Outside, dawn is fully breaking now. The sea has shifted from black to steel gray. And across that gray water, 4 Iranian armed fast craft keep coming. Fast, silent, deliberate, straight toward a U.S. carrier escort that has not turned away. Then CIC cuts in again, sharper this time. Bridge CIC. Lead contact separating from formation. New heading puts him on a direct crossing line. The officer of the deck stares at the screen. CPA drops again. The captain does not move. Say again. CIC comes back immediately. Possible engagement geometry forming. At 5:21 local time, the formation changes. The lead Iranian boat breaks slightly left, then cuts hard back across the escort's projected track. Not enough to commit, enough to test, enough to force the bridge to look twice. Inside CIC, the surface plot tightens. Bridge, CIC, lead contact maneuvering independently. CPA now 1.8 nautical miles. Starboard pair still widening. The officer of the deck keeps his eyes on the repeater. They're building a box. The captain does not answer right away. He is already watching the second and third boats through the forward glass. One presses wide off the escort's starboard beam, just outside the lead contact's line. The other remains centered, holding a steady angle directly ahead, like the anchor point in the geometry. The fourth trails half a mile behind, close enough to support, far enough to stay outside the first burst of attention. 4 boats, 4 different jobs, no wasted movement. Helicopter status? The captain asks. Detachment reports launch ready in 3 minutes. Make it 2. Aye, sir. On the bridge-to-bridge circuit, the radio operator transmits again. His voice is controlled, flat, unmistakably American. Iranian naval vessels, this is United States warship. You are maneuvering unsafely in close proximity to a U.S. Navy escort. Alter course now. This is your final warning. Silence, no static, no challenge, no reply at all. That silence says more than words would. At 5:22, the first visual details sharpen through the long-range optics. Spray bursts over the bows of the Iranian boats as they hammer through the low morning chop. Their hulls ride high under acceleration. Their decks look stripped down, purposeful. No fishing gear, no civilian clutter, just low silhouettes and speed. The optics operator speaks without looking up. Bridge, visual confirms 4 armed fast craft, no national ambiguity. The captain nods once. Record it. Everything is already being recorded. The ship's electro-optical and infrared systems are locked on. Every course change is time-stamped, every emission is logged, every second is preserved. Out here, evidence matters almost as much as capability. If this turns into an incident, the first contest happens on the water. The second happens in the record. EW to bridge, a voice says from below. Search radar from lead contact is narrowing, still low power, more focused now. The officer of the deck glances toward the captain. They both know what it means. Not a confirmed lock. Not yet. But the lead boat is no longer just tracking presence. It is refining a picture. At 5:23, the escort changes posture. Not dramatically. Not enough for outside cameras to capture some theatrical shift. But inside the ship, the difference is immediate. Additional watch teams arrive at key stations. Defensive crews report ready status. Decoy systems are checked, then checked again. The forward mount slews a few degrees, nothing reckless, just enough to show that the ship is awake. The captain watches it on the status board. Keep it there. Aye, sir. The message is deliberate. We see you. We are not surprised. Keep coming, and the next move is yours. Aft, the helicopter detachment is already moving fast. Rotor blades begin to turn, slow at first, then faster, chopping the dawn air into hard, rhythmic beats. On the flight deck, crew in float coats and helmets crouch low and signal through the wash. The helo is not airborne yet, but everyone on the Iranian boats will see it. That matters too. At 5:24, the starboard pair shifts again. Bridge, CIC, 2 contacts now pressing in from starboard. Bearing drift suggests containment maneuver, not shadowing. The captain steps closer to the tactical display. The pattern is obvious now. 1 boat pressures the bow. 2 squeeze from the flank. The last holds behind the formation, preserving spacing and options. It is not random. It is controlled. The officer of the deck says what everyone is thinking. They want us reacting. The captain answers in the same calm tone he has used from the start. Then we don't give them panic. We give them procedure. He turns to the radio operator. Hail them in English and in maritime warning format. The transmission goes out immediately. Iranian naval craft, you are closing a United States naval vessel at unsafe speed and unsafe bearing. Change course immediately to avoid escalation. Your actions are being recorded. The reply comes at last, but only barely. A burst of radio noise. Then a voice distant and clipped, too broken to make out more than a few words. Not cooperation. Not even a proper challenge, just proof that someone over there is listening. At 5:25, the range falls through 10 nautical miles. That number lands heavily on the bridge. At 10 miles, this is no longer a distant problem forming on the horizon. It is a short fuse situation. The helicopter lifts, not high, not dramatic. It rises off the deck in a controlled hover, nose pointed toward the threat axis, then begins sliding forward over the Escort's starboard side. On the bridge displays, its video feed comes alive instantly. Gray sea, white wakes, 4 Iranian boats spreading wider than before. The helo pilot checks in. Airborne, pushing to investigate. The captain answers. Keep safe separation. I want eyes, not heroics. Roger that. The lead Iranian boat reacts almost immediately. Through the helo camera, men can be seen moving on deck. Another boat angles outward, trying to open a different lane. The centered contact holds steady, still aimed toward the Escort's forward quarter. EW to bridge, comes the call again, sharper now. Multiple emitters active. Lead group is scanning both ship and aircraft. The officer of the deck looks down at the plot, then back at the water ahead. The bracket is almost complete. The captain folds his arms and keeps watching. No one raises a voice. No one rushes. That is what makes the next report hit harder than it should. CIC breaks in, fast and clear. Bridge, CIC. Possible canister alignment observed on the lead contact. For the first time that morning, nobody moves at all. Then the captain speaks. Say again. CIC does not hesitate. Possible launch posture developing. At 5:25 local time, the bridge goes dead quiet. Not because the danger is gone, because now it has shape. On the tactical display, the lead Iranian boat is no longer just the closest contact. It is the pivot, the pressure point, the one forcing the Escort's attention forward while the other 3 keep widening the trap. High bridge CIC, the voice comes back, flat and fast. Lead contact maintaining engagement geometry. Starboard pair still compressing lateral space, trailing contact holding rear offset. The captain does not look away from the screen. Range? 9.2 nautical miles. That number lands hard. The helicopter is already out in front, holding safe distance, feeding live video back into CIC. Its camera stares down at the gray dawn water and the 4 Iranian boats carving through it. From above, the pattern is unmistakable. 1 ahead, 2 off to starboard. 1 hanging back where it can support or exploit. Not random movement, a coordinated posture. The aircrew calls down first. Bridge, air, we've got visible deck activity on the lead boat. Multiple personnel topside. Forward area partially obscured by spray. The sensor operator zooms tighter. Thermal contrast sharpens metal, engines, bodies, exhaust. Then he says it. Possible canister orientation forward, still not confirmed. No one on the bridge repeats the words. They do not need to. The officer of the deck lowers his voice. If that's real, they're not just crowding us anymore. The captain answers without emotion. No assumptions. We stay inside ROE until they cross it. That is the line. And everybody on board knows how thin it just became. At 5:26, the electronic warfare operator calls up from below. EW to bridge. Lead contact emissions are tighter now. Narrow sector. Not full quality targeting, but significantly more focused. Aircraft 2? The captain asks. Affirmative. They're scanning both ship and helo. The helicopter pilot checks in immediately after. Air copy. We're seeing bridge movement on contact 1. Contact 2 appears to be shifting outboard. Opening angle. The captain understands the significance at once. If one boat is refining a solution and the others are widening lanes, then this is no longer pressure for pressure's sake. This is the kind of geometry that gives small armed craft options. Too many options. The Escort still has not altered course. That matters. The ship is holding its transit track with deliberate discipline, refusing to hand Iran a picture of retreat. But inside the hull, every compartment feels the tension rising with each fresh report. Defensive stations are manned. Countermeasure teams stand by. Damage control teams wait in full kit below decks. Nobody is guessing what comes next. They are preparing for it. At 5:27, the lead Iranian boat surges again. Bridge, CIC. Lead contact now 31 knots. The wake behind it flattens into a hard white spear. Through the forward windows, the hull is finally clear enough to see without optics. Low, sharp, aggressive. Not charging blindly, driving with purpose. The starboard pair respond instantly. One presses slightly inward, the other hangs just wide enough to complicate any clean response picture. The trailing boat closes half a mile. No longer content to sit back, the bracket tightens. The officer of the deck speaks without taking his eyes off the water. They're trying to overload the decision cycle. The captain nods once. Then we stay ahead of it. He turns towards CIC. Any sign of illumination, launch sequence, or hard lock, I want it instantly, not after. Aye, Captain. The helicopter continues circling, careful and disciplined, just outside the point where presence becomes provocation. Its camera catches one of the Iranian boats, rolling heavily through its own wake as deck crew move near the forward section. A panel, a cover, a shape lifting and settling again in the spray. The sensor operator zooms tighter. Then his voice cuts across the net. Air to bridge. We may have launcher exposure. Repeat, possible launcher exposure on lead contact. For the first time that morning, the bridge feels smaller. No one panics. But the silence changes. It becomes compressed. Every breath, every update, every second starts to matter more than the last. At 5:28, the Escort shifts from watchful to edged. The forward mount trains another few degrees. Not enough to signal first action. Enough to be seen. A close-in defensive system moves to ready status. Response teams stand by on a word that has not yet been spoken. The ship is still inside restraint, but only just. The difference between posture and action has narrowed to a handful of cues. The captain picks up the handset himself. Iranian naval vessels. This is United States warship. You are approaching in apparent launch posture. Alter course immediately. Any further escalation will be treated as hostile intent. This time, there is no broken response, no static, no fragment of language, nothing. Only the sea, only the wakes, only 4 Iranian armed craft still coming. Then CIC breaks in, sharp enough to cut through steel. Bridge, CIC, rapid bearing shift on contact 1, possible final alignment. The officer of the deck stares at the plot. Launch? Unable to confirm. The helicopter feed jolts slightly as the aircrew banks to maintain angle. On the screen, the lead boat's bow throws spray wide as it turns just enough to expose more of its forward deck. For one brief second, something catches the dawn light. Metallic, angular, wrong. A flash, but not from a launch, a reflection. Still, it is enough to hit every nerve on the ship at once. Air to bridge, the pilot says, voice tighter now. Lead contact just changed heading. That was deliberate. The captain's eyes never leave the feed. Maintain your distance. Roger. Then the electronic warfare station calls again, louder this time. EW to bridge. Spike in emissions from the lead group, short duration. We may be seeing targeting refinement. The officer of the deck turns toward the captain. That is the moment. Not impact, not action. The moment before when every trained instinct on the ship is warning that the next movement could change everything. The captain does not shout. He does not need to. Stand by all defensive stations across the Escort. Steel, circuitry, and men lock into one held breath. And then CIC says the words no one wanted to hear. Possible launch indication. At 5:28 local time, every system on the Escort is waiting for the same thing. A flash, a plume, a signal that turns uncertainty into certainty. Instead, what comes first is movement. Fast, tight, deliberate. On the CIC display, the lead Iranian boat snaps a few degrees farther across the Escort's bow, refining its angle one last time. At the same moment, the two boats to starboard surge inward together, their wakes bending like white claws toward the ship's exposed side. The trailing boat closes behind them, no longer hanging back, no longer preserving distance. The bracket is complete. Bridge, CIC. All 4 contacts now inside compressed engagement geometry. The officer of the deck does not answer. He is already looking at the captain. The captain's eyes stay on the helicopter feed. The lead Iranian boat is larger now, clearer, harder. Spray pours off its bow. Men are visible on deck. One shape near the forward section drops low, then disappears behind metal shielding. Another moves aft. The entire craft looks taut, as if it has crossed from pressure into commitment. Then the helicopter pilot breaks in. Air to bridge. Lead contact accelerating through turn. Contact 2 cutting inside. They're forcing a decision. He is right. If the Escort turns too early, Iran gets the image of an American warship being pushed off course. If it holds too long, the geometry gets worse. The window between weakness and danger has narrowed to seconds. On the bridge, the captain finally moves. Right full rudder. Come 5 degrees to starboard. Now. The order lands like a hammer below. The helm answers instantly. Right full rudder, aye. The Escort does not break away. It shifts just enough. Not retreat, not panic. A sharp, controlled reposition that changes everything at once. The bow begins to swing. The ship's track steps across the water like a piece sliding across a board. In CIC, the surface plot redraws in real time. The lead Iranian boat, which had been driving toward a clean crossing line, suddenly finds the angle collapsing beneath it. The centered contact loses its direct approach window. One of the starboard boats, already committed inward, now has to correct hard to avoid overshooting into the Escort's turning arc. Bridge, CIC, Contact 2 maneuvering abruptly. Contact 3 widening. Their spacing just broke. That is the first crack. The second comes from above. The helicopter drops lower. Not recklessly, not aggressively, just low enough, fast enough, and close enough to hit the Iranian formation at exactly the wrong moment. Rotor wash lashes the sea into white spray as the aircraft cuts across the outer edge of the starboard pair. The aircrew does not need to threaten. Their timing does it for them. Air to bridge, Contact 2 just checked speed. Repeat, Contact 2 reducing speed. The Escort's bow keeps coming around. 5 degrees was enough. Now the Iranian geometry is dying in front of them. The lead boat, which had looked so clean and dangerous 30 seconds earlier, is suddenly too far forward, too committed, and too exposed. Instead of boxing in the Escort, it has driven itself into the worst place possible, isolated ahead of the formation. Broad enough for every camera, every sensor, and every defensive station on the US ship to hold it in perfect view. EW to bridge, comes the voice from below. Lead emissions just spiked, then dropped. They lost coherence. The captain says only one word. Good. At 5:29, the forward mount slews again. Not wildly, not as a promise of immediate action. Just enough for the Iranian lead boat to see that the entire American ship has now turned its attention directly onto him. At nearly the same moment, the Escort's response picture stabilizes. The starboard pair are no longer synchronized. One is drifting wide, forced outward by the helicopter and the altered track. The other has fallen behind its own timing, leaving a gap. The trailing boat has no lane left to exploit. 4 boats still present. No formation left. Bridge, CIC. Contact 1 is opening angle away from our bow. Contact 3 no longer in containment position. That is the third crack. The captain takes the radio handset himself. Iranian naval vessels, you have been recorded conducting unsafe armed maneuvering against a United States warship. Alter course immediately and open distance. This time, the reply is not silence. A burst of transmission comes through, fast and agitated, clipped fragments in Farsi. No translation is needed on the bridge. The tone is enough. The helicopter sensor operator catches it first from above. Air to bridge. Contact 1 is braking left. Contact 2 is following. Contact 4 slowing. There it is. The moment the pressure reverses. Not with a launch, not with warning shots, with timing, angle, discipline, nerve. The Escort completes the maneuver and steadies on its new line. The ship has not been pushed aside. It has reset the encounter on its own terms, broken the bracket, isolated the aggressor, and forced the Iranian boats to react all at once. The lead boat, the one that had been closest to launch posture, is now peeling away under full throttle, wake streaming behind it in a long diagonal streak. One of the starboard boats crosses too wide and has to swing farther out to avoid bunching up with the others. Another falls off to the rear, its speed visibly down. From the bridge windows, the change is unmistakable. Moments ago, they were coming in. Now they are sorting themselves out. Now they are looking for space. Bridge, CIC, the watch officer says, calm again for the first time in minutes. All 4 contacts increasing separation. No one on the Escort cheers. That is not what professionals do. They keep watching, because one boat has not fully turned yet. One boat, farther aft now, slower than the others, still holds its bow just a little too long, like it wants the last word. The captain sees it too. His gaze hardens. Stay on that one, he says, because the formation may be broken, but the encounter is not over yet. At 5:29 local time, 3 of the Iranian armed craft are already pulling away. The 4th is not. It lingers just outside the broken formation, bow still angled toward the US Escort, as if the crew on board cannot decide whether the moment is over or simply changing shape. Its wake is shorter now, speed down, angle uncertain, but it has not turned cleanly away. And on a warship, that is enough to keep every eye locked forward. Bridge, CIC. Contact 4 maintaining partial closure, range 8.1 nautical miles. The captain does not blink. Keep tracking. Around him, the bridge remains as controlled as ever. No release of tension, no sudden exhale. The ship has survived the most dangerous seconds of the encounter, but nobody on board mistakes that for safety. Not yet. At sea, the last mistake often comes after people think the crisis has already passed. The helicopter circles wide, holding altitude, camera fixed on the lone Iranian boat still hanging in the space between defiance and retreat. On the live feed, deck crew can be seen moving again, less coordinated now, less aggressive. One man stands near the bridge wing, looking aft. Another disappears below. No one is rushing toward a launcher. No one is signaling the others back in. That matters. Air to bridge, the pilot says. Contact 4 appears indecisive. No visible prep for immediate action. The captain nods once. Stay with him. Behind the Escort, the larger shape of the carrier group continues its transit through the dawn haze, steady and unbroken. That image says more than any radio warning could. Iran rushed the Escort. The Escort held. The formation behind it never had to scatter, never had to flinch. On the electronic warfare console below, the next report comes in. EW to bridge. Emissions from all 4 contacts have dropped. Search radar activity intermittent only. No targeting indications. That is the moment the bridge finally gets what it has been waiting for since 5:17. Not victory, clarity. The Iranian boats are backing off. One by one, the numbers confirm it. The 3 outer boats continue widening their separation. The 4th, the stubborn one, hesitates for another 10 seconds that feel longer than the previous 10 minutes. Then its bow begins to slide away. Slow at first, then more decisively. Its wake lengthens behind it as the craft commits to the turn and opens water instead of closing it. Bridge, CIC. Contact 4 now increasing separation. All contacts moving off. No one says a word. The captain keeps watching through the glass until the turn is undeniable. Only then does he speak. Very well. Maintain surveillance. Stay in condition 3. I want full logs preserved and every sensor file backed up. Aye, sir. That is how the moment ends aboard a U.S. Navy warship. Not with shouting, not with celebration, with procedure. In CIC, watch standards save tracking history, export radar plots, and mark key timestamps. Every course change, every warning, every emission spike, every second of helicopter footage. The ship's memory is being assembled in real time, frame by frame, because what happened out here will matter long after the wakes disappear. The forward mount eases off its angle, not fully, just enough. Close-in systems remain ready. Damage control teams stay posted a little longer below decks. Sailors on watch keep binoculars trained outward until the 4 contacts are no longer an immediate tactical problem, but distant shapes on a brightening sea. That too is part of the story. The U.S. Escort did not chase them. It did not grandstand. It did not overreact. It held the line, broke the trap, and made 4 armed Iranian boats turn away under their own power. By 5:34, the range has opened significantly. The helicopter begins its return leg, banking back toward the ship in a smooth arc as the sea below settles into ordinary morning patterns again. But nothing about the last 17 minutes was ordinary. Iran had come in fast, silent, and coordinated. 1 boat pressured the bow, 2 tried to squeeze the flank, 1 held back to exploit whatever confusion followed. It was a clean setup, until it met a ship that did not panic. That is the part outsiders rarely understand. Naval confrontations are not decided by whoever moves first. They are decided by whoever stays inside the decision cycle longer without losing control. On this morning, the Iranians forced the geometry. The Americans controlled the outcome. On the bridge, the captain finally lowers his binoculars. No raised voice, no speech, no theatrics, just 1 quiet order. Resume normal transit. Continue surface watch. And with that, the Escort returns to its mission as if the sea had not just come within seconds of something far worse. But everyone on board knows what really happened. 4 Iranian armed fast craft rushed a U.S. carrier escort at dawn and tried to trap it in close waters. They failed. Not because the Americans acted first, not because the sea was on their side, because the ship stayed disciplined when the margin for error nearly disappeared. By the time the sun clears the horizon, the carrier group is still moving forward. Formation intact, course controlled. Behind them, 4 Iranian boats fade into the distance, smaller with each passing minute. Their message was sent, but their gamble was answered quietly, professionally, and in a way every navy in the region would understand. So here is the question. Did Iran misread the Escort, or did the U.S. Navy let them see exactly how far they could go before the line closed? Drop your take in the comments, and if you want more real-time naval standoffs like this, tense, disciplined, and 1 decision away from changing everything, make sure you subscribe. Because out here, the most dangerous sound is not always the one you hear. Sometimes it is the silence right before someone decides not to blink.